For the general reading today, I've decided to use the Santa Muerte tarot, one of my favorites that I haven't been using for too long, really just a few months. I actually got this deck in preparation to visit South America. When I went to Colombia, it seemed appropriate to become familiar with a being comfortable with where I was going. And so while I didn't obtain these in Colombia, they went with me all the way there and all the way back. So these will remain near and dear to me. Now, in a lot of our general readings, I've done just a 3-card spread. Today, the 5-card pentagram spread, you'll see, focuses on, I could say skeletons, but you'd go through all 78 cards and find the same here. But really, we see two things that I consider worth mentioning. First, we have 2 pentagrams, and then we have 2 of the Major Arcana, which, in spite of some new and emerging wisdom on tarot, says doesn't make a difference. I think it does. I view them as 2 separate classes of cards, the majors and the minors. The majors deal with archetypal phases of life that everyone experiences in one way or another, whereas the suits deal with different aspects of life, which everyone experiences, or certainly has the potential to. But I view these as a bit more weighty, and that comes into play here, as we'll see in a minute. I assign the first card to the self, the inquirer, you and me today. And that card, the 7 of Pentacles, or pentagrams as I prefer, depicts a man, or what once was a man, in the act of doing, it looks like math on a large life-size skull abacus. And this may seem a little strange, but I want to point a couple things out. First of all, we have a lot of foliage here. We got a lot of growth. A lot of growth has happened. And if we look at that in terms of oneself, a lot of growth had to happen to get us to this position. With that said, we see him involved in some meaningful work. He's gotten past just working to fill his belly, or what belly he once had. He's gotten past working without purpose, and now he finds himself engaged in something that he finds enjoyable in one way or another. And when we apply this to our work, our magic perhaps, with which we change ourselves and our environments, this takes on some strong meaning. We start out maybe just wanting to experiment or have a little fun or rebel. But if we have no deeper meaning, or we don't create or discover a deeper meaning, that'll soon fizzle out, right? And in this case, we find ourselves in a position where, no, we've done a lot. It means a lot. We've kept going. And now we find ourselves in a position not too comfortable, not too uncomfortable, but where we can work with ourselves as we flourish. Now, the second and third cards, we look at disadvantages, challenges, and advantages, or assets. So here we have the One of Swords. Can a person do magic or do transformation of the self without much in the way of self-discovery. Arguably, yes, not recommended, but they can. And in this case, additional self-discovery, or some of the first glimpses of a new aspect of self, while not a bad thing, can absolutely stand as a challenge. I discovered something new about myself, and now it calls other things into question. How do we deal with that? What can we do with it? Well, I always like to try and turn challenges into advantages, and certainly if we, pull that sword out and begin wielding it for ourselves, absolutely we can turn it into something good. But right now, or at the beginning, this may look like a challenge and even a problem. I mean, maybe it involves the fact that, oh shit, now look at this piece of myself that I have to dig out from these weeds, and they probably have thorns, and I have to go through a phase that I wasn't planning on, and that'll put some of my other work on hold. Think of this. Think of how it will enhance that work once you get to it. And maybe that work wouldn't have been as meaningful or effective if you hadn't done this. So try not to look at it as such a disadvantage. Look at it as a challenge. And one thing about challenges and obstacles that I really like to ponder on, they don't have to stop us. They don't even have to work as an inconvenience. We can view them as an opportunity to show how much doing something or achieving something or obtaining something means to us. And that adds meaning to the achievement once we've gotten there. So view this not as an obstruction, but as a side quest for my gamer friends. And then, of course, in our advantages, we have the 2 of pentagrams. And what a lovely depiction, huh? Doesn't this show the need for coming into contact with different parts of ourselves? Look at this. You once were a caterpillar, and then you crawled into your cocoon, and you emerged as a clearer representation of yourself, a more refined and arguably beautiful one. You need these instances, and I dare say, if you review your past, you'll find that you've been through this in many contexts, and you can draw on that process that you've already established with yourself to help get through. Your history stands as a wonderful tool. Think also, again, for just a moment, of all that foliage there. In order to grow, in order to progress, in order to do things that affect the outside, that affect the external environments, whether that means your relationships at home or at work or at school or on the bus, you have to work first on the self. You have to work first on the self. It prepares you. It turns you into what you need and want to become to continue moving forward. And that brings us nicely to the 14th of the Major Arcana, Temperance, also known in the Crowley-Toth deck as Art, I believe, and in the Black Flame Tarot, which you've actually seen both of those other ones featured here regularly, but Alchemy of the Black Flame Tarot. You see, this creature, this being, has been affected by the Minor Arcana. It's been going through the minor arcana that's led us to have the ability to encounter this phase of life where we have gotten on a path of self-transformation. Here, it was necessary. Here, it's become meaningful and maybe enjoyable. Here, we've discovered parts and tools, or we can discover parts and tools that help us on these fronts. But here, it's become more of a way of life. Self-awareness, self-alchemy, self-transformation all work together now on this path that we've chosen, devised, engineered, and constructed. And we can continue moving on that path. We want good relationships. We want good surroundings. We want good things and situations for ourselves. And now we put ourselves on a path to achieve those things because we understand how it works. We've done it on a small scale, and now can do it on a more broad and far-reaching scale. And that leads us to a potential outcome here. Tarot, much like life, doesn't see a lot of endings. It just sees changes and transformations into other things. One end equals a new beginning. A closed door opens at least another one, right? And in this case, we find that if we continue on this path, we will come to a conclusion, one that will involve some rest, some isolation perhaps in one way or another. But I suggest not looking at it, as I just mentioned, as a conclusion or as a finale, but as preparation for a new adventure. It can seem futile when you get looking at it and say, well, what'll I achieve? Well, here we've achieved a lot. We need a rest. We need some time to contemplate and to grow from that. This indicates that whatever you find yourself working for on this path has been achieved. And, like we were talking about earlier, applying lessons and aspects of self that have already been learned and obtained to other situations, you'll have learned from this whole process, and you can integrate that into the new process and path that you'll find yourself on. It doesn't actually get futile. It works as preparation. These cycles work as preparation to get you to go as far as you will let yourself go, and as far as you'll push yourself to go. We need rest, but we also need to get up and start moving again. So, think of where these ideas apply in your life. Review your past. Observe your present. See how you can transform your challenges into material for your further growth and development, and apply those to your present path, your future, and what doors those will open up to you. As always, I love comments, I love thoughts, suggestions, and whatever else you might have to offer me. Please, if you want a more in-depth, individualized reading, feel free to contact me. You can do so through the comments section, or by finding me on Facebook or Instagram, which I have listed in the description. You'll see how to find me on those. And finally, subscribe so that you can get regular updates. I enjoy doing these, and I hope that you enjoy them as well. Until next time, folks, please enjoy yourselves, reflect on yourselves, and keep up that self-transformation.